Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RRacing League here on MotoGP 20, obviously the Moto2 League, and this time we're here at Assen. So obviously the last episode didn't quite go to plan with either the race or the video, so I appreciate everyone that actually stayed and watched that video, and the comments that said the quality wasn't too bad. It wasn't actually as bad as it looked actually in editing when it was uploaded, but still wasn't quite my best work, of course. But all this footage is fine, so hopefully you will enjoy that. Let's head into qualifying and see how I got on. So here we are then in qualifying for the Dutch TT at Assen, and now this episode I really wanted to make up for what happened in the last one, obviously running out of fuel right near the line, but here we are then braking for the first corner. We've actually got a bit of a market in front of us. I can't tell who it is from this distance, but that turn one was very, very close to going off the circuit actually. We were just keeping it on the edge of the curb, and I think that's kind of how you have to maximise this first sector through the Ossenbrock, and then, well, it's just called Ossenbrock, it's not called the Ossenbrocken, but it doesn't really matter. Sliding the rear tyre a little bit through turn 4, flicking the bike over then for Strubben, taking a tight line, so you're running pretty wide, then you've got to try and slide it through the corner and get on the power, because Strubben is a hairpin that you need to get the power on to gain all the way down this straight. So 31.077 so far. No laps set at all, so we're currently sat in 4th position, but there is no laps, so every sector we're going to go through should be fast for the session. As we go through the Ruskenhoek, whoa, right to the edge of the curve there, that was extremely close to going off the circuit. You can see the rider in front is twitching as well. We actually are making some inroads in on whoever that is, so if they're a fast rider, that bodes pretty well for us. So we're about to hit the brakes, and we'll hit the brakes for De Bolt. We've actually gone quite wide there, but we've not gone to the outside of the track, so it doesn't particularly matter. Ideally, you want to try and touch that apex on the inside, but made a little bit of a mistake through the Mandavine then, sliding the rear tyre. You can see the bit of temperature building in that rear, and again it squirms as we try and find the traction through the Dukas Loop. And here we go through that corner that I never try and pronounce. Very easy to obviously lose your lap there if you're going a little bit too quick, but we actually were pretty conservative there. And we're coming towards the last sector now. Speaking of easy to lose a lap, through the Rams Hook, very nice corner, but once again easy to go wide on the exit, and now we go down towards the Timmer chicane. So we're going into the Timmer chicane, clipping the apex, flicking the bike over, clipping the other apex, and here we go towards the line. Desmond Danny does a 35.4. What are we going to do when we come over the line? 34.6, which currently puts us on pole position here at Assen. And at the end of the session, that stuck. We finally got a pole position this season, which is absolutely unbelievable. I was extra motivated, way more motivated than normal, to try and get this pole position out off the back of the previous episode. So just ahead of Seafire there, as you can see, in 2nd position by a 10th of a second. Vazel's in 3rd, Desmond Danny 4th, Karma in 5th, Darius in 6th, X1 in 7th, Jäger in 8th, Jono Ninja in 9th, and then Alfie Brooks in 10th. So let's see what we can do from this pole position. Hopefully we can try and get a victory. So here we are then, heading into the race down on the grid. The objective for this one is to try and get the whole shot into turn 1 and just pull away. I need a victory after losing all those points in Australia to Seafire, who is actually alongside us on the grid, so he's going to try and do as much damage limitation as he can. But we're waiting for the lights to go out here then at Assen. Lights out, and away we go. We've got a pretty good jump off the line this season. We've been getting some pretty good starts using some power mode too to go down towards the first corner, although that is some risky business, as we know from the previous episode. Braking for the first corner, tipping it in. We've actually got through first corner to crash behind for Darius, and I think he might have taken Vazel's out with him there, or he took somebody out, I think, because you can see on the mini-map there's 2 riders down there. So currently we've got the lead, and we've got a little bit of a gap if you look on the mini-map as well. Obviously our dot is bigger, but we've got a little bit over the rest of the field as we go into Strubben corner. Then we've taken a little bit better probably than in qualifying. We didn't quite go in as hot, and we look behind. X1 is in 2nd position. Vazel's in 3rd, so Vazel's couldn't have been taken out there, but X1 sat in 2nd position, which I did not expect since he started about 7th on the grid. But there you go, he's 4 tenths behind us. And really, that's exactly what I wanted in this race, to get some people between myself and Seafire, and obviously Karma as well. Now up to half a second at the end of the 2nd sector through the Steckenval then. I was really just pushing on, trying to put a gap out. Alfie Brooks further behind crashes. That allowed Jono Ninja to get in front of him. So we hit the brakes then for De Bolt. Once again, well, this time we ran a little bit wide, so that's what I was on about in qualifying, where it's easy to run wide through there. Karma, so I think it was actually Karma that was taking out the first corner, because he's down in 9th place, only just overtaking the Alfie Brooks. That's where Danny moves ahead of Seafire, so Seafire 5th, Karma down in about 9th place. This is exactly what I need for the championship as we go through that corner that I never try and pronounce the name of. Seafire and Desmond Danny, as you can see on the overtake indicator there, having a bit of a battle. We've now got 6 tenths of a second over X1, so we're not pulling massively on him. You would expect to pull more. And Vazel's is down as well, so Vazel's is now down as well. So another fast rider that could potentially take this win away from us is down, but we've absolutely made a mess of the chicane. That was a horrendous chicane. So as we come over the line then, 4 tenths of a second once again. X1 gained a lot of time in it. You would have gained even more than that down the straight. But at the end of the second lap then, you can see on the mini-map, X1 is still within range and through the chicane. Again, we've kind of butchered it a little bit. Not quite as badly as the first lap, but it's not a very good line at all. So 35.7, 4 tenths, but actually slightly closer. So X1 did a slightly quicker lap than us there by a few hundredths. There you go, 35.6 for X1. And he's actually reeling us in at this point, which is not what I expected. But at the end of the third lap, you see Vazels goes past Yono Ninja there on the overtake indicator. Once again, messing up that chicane. We were not doing the chicane well in the early stage of this race. Another 35.7. We're now up to 1.6. So X1 really struggled on that lap. We put quite a bit of time into him, 1.2 seconds. But here we go then at the end of the fourth lap. You'll notice a bit of a theme here, just cutting onto different laps through the chicane. This time we've finally done it pretty well though. That's actually quite a nice run through the chicane. You see on the map we've got a bit of a gap, 35.6, so another better lap for myself. I think I might be fast lap of the race, not too sure, but 2.4 seconds. So we put another second into X1, so we're getting quite a big gap now. But here you see, halfway around lap 5, X1's 2.5 seconds behind us. But you can see he's having a little bit of a battle. Desmo Danny goes down, and I can tell you, so does Seafire. So Desmo Danny and Seafire were stuck behind X1. They've collided together, and that's just left me and X1 out front now, although I've got a couple seconds over X1, of course. So at the end of the fifth lap, what is the gap? 36.4, so not a very good lap for myself there, but 2.3 seconds in front of him, so we lost a little bit of time, but not a massive amount there. At the end of this sixth lap, then tipping it into the chicane once again. Yeah, nice, quite a nice line through the chicane, if I can actually speak. And 36.0, so again, not a great lap, and 1.8, so X1 is bridging the gap at this point in the race. X1 is actually catching us up, and at the end of this seventh lap, then that we've just started, you can see the two MV Augustas are battling over 6th place there, and the two Mark VDS is battling over 9th. 35.5, so a bit quicker again, so a bit more like it, a bit more on the pace, 2.5 seconds. So we've got this under control, putting a big gap into X1. And now, as you can see, at the end of the 8th lap, about to start the 9th one again. Quite a nice run through the chicane there, so I think that's probably one of the best ones we've had so far. 35.2, yeah, that'll explain it then. Fastest lap of the race at that point, 3.4 seconds. We've pulled the pin back up to pace again. I think I was saving a bit of fuel when it was catching before, because I was a little bit petrified of running out of fuel again after the previous race. But what is the gap at the end of this lap then? 35.9, so not quite as good of a lap. But you can see the gap is huge. 3.9 seconds, took a while for that to pop up. So we're definitely comfortable now as we're about to start the penultimate lap. The end of that lap then, starting the penultimate lap. Again, the gap's taken ages, 4.3 seconds with 2 laps to go. We are really, really safe here. And here we go, about to start the final lap of the race. Again, quite a nice line out of the chicane, 35.9. We're just cruising at this point because we had like almost 5 seconds over X1. Yeah, 4.6 seconds. Massive gap. Karma does fast lap of the race, 34.8. So it demolishes my fastest lap, but he's too far behind. Nothing he can do, of course, on this last lap. A little bit on the green there, so not the best. Good job there's no race director anymore. Probably would have got given a warning for that. But through turn 4 then, I think I'm just going to show off this entire last lap. So flicking the bike through Strubben. You can see the rear tyre really did not have much heat in it. So the hard rear tyre was probably the good choice for this one. Because if you used a soft, you could see I was overheating it in qualifying, but it kept quite a nice temperature really in this race. 5.1 seconds in front of X1 now, so extending the gap even on this last lap with power mode 0. You can see I've got 5 laps of fuel in reserve, so I was taking it pretty seriously this time, the fuel management, compared to the previous race. 5 seconds in front of X1 again still, so I think he might gain a little bit of time back, but obviously it was less than 5 seconds starting the lap, so we've already put 4 tenths back into him. I think he was just focused on trying to keep his second position, because I believe at this point in the race, Karma and Seafire were literally right behind him, trying to make some moves here. You can see on the map there is a couple of people right behind X1. So here we go then. Even still, if he gets overtaken, it'll be his joint best result of the season, but if he can get this second place, that'll be his best result of the season, which would be even better for him, because it wasn't inherited by mistakes. He genuinely had the pace to have second position. He managed to fend off people behind. Still 5 seconds, but here you go then, down towards the final chicane for the final time, tipping it in to the left, and the right and the left. That was pretty abysmal as well, so we've struggled with that chicane throughout the race, but we win the race, get our championship back on track, an absolutely dominant lights to flag victory. So then, if we have a look at the final results of this race, obviously I won ahead of X1 in second position, so great result there for X1, getting his best result of the season. And really, he wasn't expecting much coming into the race, if I remember correctly, because it was the week Ride 4 had come out, so he hadn't spent too much time on the GP game, but he actually did a really, really good job. Seafire ended up beating Karma in the end, because Karma actually had a penalty, so Seafire got 3rd place ahead of Karma in 4th. Vazels ended up 5th, Darius in 6th, Desmo Danny 7th, Vladimir Jäger in 8th place, Yono Ninja in 9th, and then 10th for Alfie Brooks. It wasn't really ideal for me that Seafire beat Karma. Obviously both of them are championship rivals of mine, but of course Seafire is my teammate as well, so it's kind of conflicting because I want him to score well so that we can win the team championship, but but I also want him to score badly so I can gain some points back, because we lost a lot of points at the previous round. If I'd actually won that race, we would have been really, really close in the championship. Well, we still are, but we would have been like just a couple points separated. I think I actually might have been leading the championship, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't hold me to that. So speaking of the championship then, we'll move on to the championship standings. So C5 continues to lead now with 110 points, 11 ahead of Karma in second place, and then 18 ahead of myself. Obviously we clawed back 9 points, which is still a nice hefty margin, but he did some good damage limitation in that race, obviously having that crash with I think it was Desmond Danny earlier on in the race. Vazels still holds 4th place in the championship, 11 points down on me, 29 down on C5. Darius 1 point behind him in 5th, Desmo Danny further 10 back in 6th. X1 boosting his total quite a bit there with that 2nd place, obviously 20 points, so taking him from 34 to 54. Mystic Prune still sat in 8th place there, obviously he wasn't in this race. Yono Ninja in 9th with 24 points, actually tied with his teammate Vladimir Yeager. KG then in 11th place with 22 points, Sloppy Wall at 12th with 20, Blake with 16 points in 13th place, and Alfie Brooks at the bottom of the table with 12 points. That's the Riders' Championship. Let's see what's happened to the Teams' Championship. So Petronas Sprinter Racing, which is myself and Seafire, of course, continue to lead the championship. A little bit unfair really, because there's only 2 teams that have 2 full-time riders that are competitive at the front, and we've been quite a bit more lucky than the MV Augusta team over the course of the races, so we've got a 52 point lead ahead of them. Sky VR 46, which is effectively just Vazel's. Sloppy Wallet did score a few points for them early on, not too bad points really either, but he's not been there for a while. Karma in 4th place there, the Ito Trans Racing team. That's just Karma, because I don't think Apex is coming back at all for the season, so it's just going to be Karma on his own, unfortunately, there. So Karma versus Chris for 3rd and 4th in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull KTM IO obviously gaining quite a few points on the count of X1's 2nd position there. In 5th, Speed Up in 6th place with 54 points, and Mark VDS few points back of them, 6 points back of them at the bottom of the table, so they'll probably be able to catch them up if they keep at a decent rate, obviously with Yono Ninja and Vladimir Yeager. But I hope you did enjoy this episode. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. Hope you're all staying safe, and I shall see you in the next one.